Hello and welcome to Context, where we examine key global and regional developments. Now let's turn our attention to Lebanon, which has been subjected to intense airstrikes conducted by Israel in what was apparently a retaliatory measure carried out in response to Hezbollah rocket attacks. After several rockets were fired from Lebanon into Israel for the first time since the 27th of November ceasefire deal came into effect, Israel, according to the country's military, had targeted a command center believed to be belonging to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Israel is also believed to have hit dozens of rocket launchers in southern Lebanon as well. Of course, there have been some big questions as to the effective implementation of the ceasefire deal, and the latest development, in view of many analysts, testifies not just to the volatile nature of the whole current situation, but also its sheer unpredictability in terms of what is to come next. And joining me now is Adnan Nasser, a news correspondent based in Beirut, Lebanon. Adnan, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Adnan, it looks like an important development, the first escalation of this magnitude, of this scope, since the 27th of November ceasefire deal came into effect. It looks like, according to what we have heard, there was initial attack emanating from southern Lebanon. We know that Hezbollah has not claimed responsibility for what happened, and Israel has retaliated. So could you tell us about what is happening there, and what is the true scope of this escalation?
I think what makes this escalatory move more significant in the eyes of the media is that it's happening in conjunction with a resumption of violence in Gaza and the Houthi rebels in Yemen launching attacks into Israel. There has been a recent report from the local Lebanese media that says that the Israeli army radio had announced that they're still uncovering the identity of those who had fired the rockets from southern Lebanon. So this is happening simultaneously with Hezbollah denying any involvement. I don't think that this is going to lead to a full-scale war and a breakdown of the November 27th ceasefire. I think everybody is looking for ways to pull back, and this recent Israeli statement shows signs that Tel Aviv also doesn't want a full-scale war in South Lebanon for the time being.
Indeed. Adnan, also, what is the appreciation on the side of the official government in Beirut that some of the provision related to 27th of November ceasefire deal might not have been actually implemented properly by Beirut, and that could give some rise to the legitimacy of the steps taken by Israel? I know that official position is one of condemning Israel, of course. Israel is being described as an enemy. We all understand that. But is there any realization that something might be realistically there as long as the argument articulated and put forward by Israel is concerned?
That line of argument would take a more legitimate, I would find that argument from the Israelis to be more legitimate if they weren't violating the ceasefire themselves since the ceasefire was implemented on November 27th. Now, to be fair, both sides are being accused of violating the ceasefire, and the Lebanese army and the Lebanese state has done everything in their power to try to implement the terms and conditions of the ceasefire. And one of them is seeing Hezbollah pull back up to the Litani River, and there are multiple, as you know, multiple interpretations of what that means. But I think everyone can agree that something of that magnitude, that it's a serious ambition, takes longer than, let's say, 3 or 4 months. And the Lebanese government is doing everything they can to organize investment and training and funding for the Lebanese army, for new equipment, for new members of brand new divisions. So we need to give the Lebanese state more time to implement every aspect of this agreement. And it looks like the Israelis are doing everything in their power to make sure that doesn't happen. It seems as if they're looking for a pretext and an alibi to attack southern Lebanon with the excuse of destroying Hezbollah.
As long as the official Lebanese government position is concerned, what is the latest state of affairs involving disarming of Hezbollah in line with 27th of November ceasefire deal? Have they been fully disarmed?
Well,
are there Hezbollah units south of the Litani River? That's effectively what I'm asking.
Well, these units are not above ground. You won't see them organized in the same way the Lebanese army, commits or conducts army training. So they're, in many cases, these are people who just live in the south. These are residents of the south of Lebanon. These are people that said that they want to defend their land regardless of what the Lebanese state is concerned. For many in the people who live in southern Lebanon, they feel that the Lebanese government hasn't done an adequate job of defending them. Let's not forget that the Israelis have been violating the ceasefire many times over. This is not the first time. So for the locals, they want to see actions followed by words from the Lebanese state.
Indeed. And as we know, as long as Israeli official information provided by them is concerned, they have hit dozens of rocket launches and also command center, which is believed to be under the auspices of Hezbollah. I imagine if, as President of Lebanon says, this disarming process is largely over, those command centers and those military equipment should have been already by now transferred into the official Lebanese state. What is the information and the approach to this particular issue? What has been targeted by Israel?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Israelis have been saying things that just don't seem to make a whole lot of sense regarding the targets in South Lebanon. Some of the casualties have been civilians. So if they're targeting so-called rocket launchers and a command center, who's operating these rocket launchers and command posts? Women and children, civilians perhaps? I don't think so. The Lebanese state right now is still in the process of implementing all these terms and conditions. One of them, you have to understand something. Hezbollah is still a legitimate political party in Lebanon, and the Lebanese government, this current Lebanese government, would not have been able to form itself, or at least the president would have not been able to be elected without the support of Hezbollah. What the Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, has called for is a national defense strategy. He hasn't specifically said we are going to, quote, disarm Hezbollah, but he wants to make sure that Hezbollah's arms are not used without the permission of the Lebanese government. And that's really where the Lebanese state finds itself.
Indeed. And also, we heard about the refugee crisis in Lebanon, in particular after what happened in Syria in its coastal regions. To what extent this crisis has exacerbated circumstances for the government in Beirut?
Well, this is happening all at once, and it's putting the country at unease. We saw that the Lebanese state and the new Syrian officials had agreed to a ceasefire in the last few days to make sure that there's no more violence happening in the north of Lebanon. But after what happened in the coastal regions where there's majority Alawite community, there is a fear that there's going to be sectarian violence, further sectarian violence in Syria that could spill over into Lebanon once again. We had all hoped that after the fall of the regime of Bashar al-Assad, Syrian refugees would find themselves in a better place to go back to Syria. Now it's a possibility we're going to see more refugees coming into Lebanon, which is something that the Lebanese government can't afford to handle right now.
Understood. And also, my last question, Adnan. We know that Hezbollah has not claimed responsibility. Lebanese government criticized Israel, but you earlier in our communication on a number of occasions mentioned that there are some other militias in southern Lebanon which are not functioning, operating within the rubric of Hezbollah, but they're kind of connected. What are those groups, and is their list extensive?
I wouldn't say the list is extensive. Many of them are independent Palestinian factions. Some of them are aligned with Hamas. And we've had Lebanese politicians in the past who used to be formally aligned with Hezbollah have called for non-Lebanese militant organizations to be disarmed, and that they say this is the job of the Lebanese government. It's hardly related to Hezbollah because Hezbollah does not directly control these organizations, but it's possible that they had been given the green light from Hezbollah to launch these attacks. Still, it's Hezbollah, they're officially denying this, so I doubt very much that they're directly connected.
But as long as Israelis are concerned, whether it's Hezbollah or any other militia, it doesn't really matter. It gives them good enough reason to target those territories which are south of the Litani River, as I understand. Adnan, thank you very much indeed for your insight. So grateful to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was Adnan Nasser, a news correspondent based in Beirut, Lebanon. We're reflecting on the latest escalation that happened today. The Israeli airstrikes targeting a certain point in southern Lebanon, which apparently were conducted in retaliation of the earlier steps taken by Hezbollah or Hezbollah-related militia based in southern Lebanon. Of course, Hezbollah has not assumed the responsibility for what happened, but clearly it looks like, in the grand scheme of things, for the purpose of what happened today and what is likely to happen tomorrow, it's a matter of peripheral nature. Stay informed, stay enlightened, and see you very soon indeed.